We wanted to get together to talk business.
Hello and welcome to Live with Superstars Writing Seminars. My name is Mark Leslie Lefebvre. I am honored to be the MC here and get a chance to chat with Cameron Scot, the founder of Merch Jar. So, Cameron, welcome to the virtual Superstar Studios.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to see you again. Excited to share whatever I can.
Well, I'm a newbie, so I'm going to be asking lots of questions. So, for anyone who's not familiar with Merch Jar, Cameron, what is Merch Jar?
Merch Jar is a software for streamlining and automating your Amazon advertising, so you can focus on what matters most for authors writing and creating instead of all the tedious ad management that takes up so much time. So we created tools to make all that a lot easier.
Wow. Okay. So I just want to invite those who are watching. I mean, if you're watching this live, great. If you have questions for Cameron, just pop them in the comments, either Facebook or YouTube, wherever you're watching them from. I do see we do have viewers on both platforms. So, and we'll bring those up. But I'm going to start off with asking some questions. So I mean, do I need to know a lot about ads to use a Merch Jar, or like who's your ideal client?
It is designed to it's a better idea to kind of know what you're doing still. It's not something that just takes over your ads completely. And I wouldn't really recommend solutions for that anyways, especially how important ads are to the success of any Amazon business. You still want to have the fundamentals down, at least, so you know what's going on. You can tell when something's not going the way it should and how to correct that. So those are still going to be important. We give you the tools to make a lot of the things easier. And we do have automations that are pre-configured out of the box to handle 90% of the things you should be doing anyways. But at the end of the day, it's a tool and it's just going to do the things that you tell it to do.
Okay. So does that mean then, again, some of the fundamentals, A, you got to know what book you're advertising. B, it has to be a book that's advertisable, and I'm going to give an example of that later, because there's certain books with certain titles with things on them that they will not allow, much to my chagrin. Should have thought of that before I went with an adult word in the cover. But then I need to know the keywords and have an understanding of who my audience is. You'd say?
I mean, that can certainly help. I mean, there's things like automatic campaigns that Amazon's going to do a lot of that work for you.
Right.
But they still need you to feed them data. They don't really know what your book is. I mean, that's going to be tied into maybe more of the SEO side of things with like your backend keywords and your title and your description. Those are just good fundamental Amazon strategies or knowledge that you need to have, because even things like that, like your description, title, all those SEO things are very much hand in hand with your advertising. I mean, if you truly want to be successful on Amazon, you can't be super hands-off and just not expect to have to learn things.
Right. Okay. All right. So for example, I'm an author who has, I'm really good at giving Amazon money for my ads. And maybe for every 100 ads I've run, maybe 5 of those ads have actually earned me more money than I've given to them. So would you say that I may be a client who's potentially going to benefit from leveraging some of what Merch Jar? Can Merch Jar help me with that basic fundamental of knowing how to give them money? Can you help me potentially get to a point where I'm making a little bit more, if not most of the time?
Yeah, it's going to perform a lot of those optimizations that if you're not doing now, you should be. Then it's going to do those for you. So, I mean, just things like optimizing your bids. It's none of the things that are necessarily difficult with Amazon. Once you know what you're doing, it's pretty much at a high level. Find what works and do more of that, and find what doesn't and do less of that. But it makes it easier to get your head around the data. It brings all your data in one place to see those things. So when you're getting sales for search terms or ASINs, like when your ads on another book's product page, it'll automatically create keywords for you if that's something you wish it to do. It'll automatically
Really?
negate the ones that are wasting money to sort of
Wait, it'll
entertain.
automatically, so I don't have to go in. Oh, hang on, you're blowing my mind here. So is that, I didn't know that was even possible, because I thought I had to go in, look at them, and that takes a lot of time.
It
Going
does.
in, looking at them, going, okay, this isn't working. I'm going to get rid of those because it's costing me money and I'm not seeing the sales. This is working. I'm going to add a few more keywords similar to this, maybe change my bid. So are you boo, are you?
Yeah, it does all that automatically for you if you choose.
Whoa.
Yeah. Again, we don't like take over your, you don't sign
Right.
up, sync all your data, and we just take everything over for
Okay.
you. That's not our approach we wanted to take. We give you a sandbox to allow you to do pretty much whatever you want. So that's where it's still like a good idea to have some of those fundamentals to kind of know what direction to go in. But
Okay.
it's really more about the time savings, about those. Again, none of these things are difficult. You can go in and look at your search terms, say, hey, this one's wasting a lot of money, and pretty easily negate it. But when you have multiple books, multiple campaigns, that becomes very, very tedious, which is why we created Merch Jar. I'm an Amazon seller myself, not with books, but similar pain points to any Amazon seller. It just takes too much time. And that's where those automation tools can really help. Like computers are good at that sort of thing. Like seeing the data, you can create these rules to, when once you hit 20 clicks and you don't get a sale on a search term, like let's stop spending money on it. The computer is going to do that automatically for you. So you don't have to be in there every day, every week, spending hours. That's time better spent probably on a lot of other things. Like Amazon sellers, we have a ton on our plate, and especially authors. I don't envy authors at all with all of the things they have to do, all the marketing. It's a ton of work. So it's one less thing to have to worry about, that your ads are going to be in good hands, doing the things you should be doing, modifying the bids to hit your targets, creating those keywords from search terms that show potential, and getting rid of the ones that are wasting your money. So you stop spending as much on Amazon ads as well.
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. So I want to walk through some of the logistics, but before I get into that, so you had mentioned you're an Amazon seller, and I noticed at merchjar.com that it's there is a specific Kindle for authors, which is very book focused, obviously Kindle books. But then there's the greater Merch Jar, which is just for people who advertise on Amazon, which is a much, much larger group of people, right? Is that so you came into it as a seller recognizing a need? Okay, sellers don't have time. It's a great tool, but we're going to help them. Like, is that where? And then, writers need help too. Is it? So
that's really similar. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the classic scratch your own itch. I mean, I was just frustrated with Amazon's own tools that they give you to manage ads. So I sell in the merch on demand space, which is akin to KDP. It's print on demand, but for primarily apparel. And there is a completely different scale for the number of products. At this point, I have personally 2 million SKUs across all the different marketplaces. Goodness. I mean,
it's colors and sizes. And
exactly. You have different colors. It's easy to just take a design and, like, as an example, you have a graphic, then you just have a different city in the United States that just gets replaced. So it's really easy to scale out. So it's a different world, but there's some similarities as far as the print on demand aspect. Lower margin products, which is a challenge compared to maybe your typical central seller that has much higher margins. So there's some similarities there as well. But really the classic, just frustrated. There's got to be a better way. And we've been building it for several years, and we have a lot of merch on demand sellers, just given my experience and kind of network in that space. But there's been a lot of crossover between merch on demand sellers and KDP sellers, or they're doing both. And that's how we kind of got into the author market. I mean, I knew about KDP. I've known about it for years. It just, I mean, honestly, it's flown under the radar for us. And I think a lot of other software companies and tech as well, to where it's what we see at this point, really an underserved market. And for us, our first introduction to it to start focusing on it was really this last November at the, I guess now former 20 Books Vegas. I was interviewing one of our users, and she's very successful on KDP, and she was telling me about this great conference that I need to go to, and it was only 3 weeks away at this point. So I was like, okay, I don't know. It's like, yeah, I know, and there's KDP, and I've seen some of the success of some of the users that have come through our platform doing really well. But again, it's just kind of flown under the radar. And then through all I did end up going to 20 Books Vegas, kind of made it happen last minute. It's like, all right, we'll see kind of what this is about, and had tons of conversations with authors. And really, that was my first recognized how big of a market there was, how many successful authors just making a ton of money that there were, but also the challenges that they were having, all the unique challenges to KDP that really no other seller has to deal with. Yeah. And for us, that's exciting. Like, we're problem solvers. Me and my co-founder, he handles the tech side of things. We're problem solvers at the end of the day. We love finding a challenge and approaching it, and seeing what we can do to figure it out and build tools to help solve it. And that's what we've started doing since November, is we've pivoted to focus 100% on KDP. It's been a very exciting market. Yeah. It's been so welcoming too. The author community has been so fantastic to work with, just so absolutely welcoming and wonderful. And if I'm being honest, probably a lot nicer than all of our other sellers too. So that's been a joy for us as well. So yeah, we're now 100% on board with the KDP market and Amazon or authors at large in the tool space, and focusing on Amazon ads, of course, but there's potential down the line to expand that to other platforms as well.
So just so I'm clear, I mean, one of the biggest benefits is a significant amount of automation that's related to. I have a lot of SKUs. I have a lot of products. I have a lot of different ads to manage, and it takes a lot of time. You got to go in and analyze the keywords and make decisions based on this, that, and the other thing. So that's a huge thing, because if I'm not spending that time working on those ads, I am spending time writing my other books or doing other things that are important to grow my business. So that's a huge win right there. But I want to look specifically at a couple specific examples. So I think first, the logistics. So I have an Amazon Author Central account. I have to have a book published, that A. B, I have to have an Amazon Author Central account, right? Like, what are the logistics of what I need in order to take advantage of what Merch Jar can do for me?
I mean, yeah, you're selling on Amazon, on any of their platforms. We support all platforms, not just KDP. It's kind of where we're focusing right now, but we support all sellers, all marketplaces.
Oh, so like other marketing platforms, Google ads, or
just Amazon, just on Amazon.
Oh, just on Amazon. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
So like Seller Central, Vendor Central, Merch, KDP are the big ones.
Okay.
But we support all those, and then in all of Amazon's marketplaces, I believe there's 22 at this point. So all the different countries you can advertise.
Oh, that's right, because it's not just .com. It's not just the US market. So as a Canadian, you could potentially help me gear up what I'm doing for the Canadian market.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I mean, we do see that the users that get the most value out of the tools are the ones that are already advertising, and they're spending money on ads. They're looking more for the optimization and scaling rather than just getting started. I mean, if you're just brand new to ads, you're just learning, you're probably not going to get as much out of our tool, to be honest. And I would say, instead of spending money on another subscription like ours, instead invest that directly into your ads and start learning the platform, because the best way to do that is to just jump in and start learning.
Okay, so let's talk then about, because I'm looking at this from a couple different perspectives. Personally, I mean, hey, this is just for me to benefit from, and then if people are watching, listening, great, they can benefit too. So, yay, great. I like when that works. So this is really just a one-on-one session we're having that we're recording. So
totally fine.
So having the books, having an account, having some experience, having run ads, whether they've been good or bad, I think maybe a little bit of both, maybe, right? So if I have like something that's been a campaign that I've been running and I think there's potential, but it's just been a poor campaign, is that a potential where I say, okay, this is something that I would love to see how I can improve that? Or do I just
exactly. So I mean, what a typical user journey looks like for us is they're running ads. Maybe they're spending a couple $100 a month or more on their advertising, and they're just spending too much time. That's usually, most people come to us. It's like it's taking so much time to do. Again, none of this stuff is necessarily hard, but it's just really tedious and time consuming, and particularly for KDP, because Amazon gives KDP sellers even fewer tools than they give literally any other seller platform. Seller Central, Merch, Vendor, they have more tools to optimize their ads, especially at scale or in bulk, to be able to make changes across all of your campaigns at a time. KDP doesn't even have that ability. So we found our tools are actually even more valuable to KDP sellers for that reason. I mean, even just automation aside, if you just do things manually through Merchjar, we bring all of your campaign and keyword data in one place where you can make changes, search and filter all of your keywords in one spot, make bulk changes to your bids at one time, instead of having that really tediousness of drilling into a campaign and then into an ad group. Then I got to click on the targeting tab, and then I got to see what my data is and then make a bid adjustment. And you got to do that for every keyword. I mean, it's probably fine if you have one campaign, one product, and a few keywords. But as soon as you start scaling that out, you have multiple books, you scale your campaigns out and have multiples. That's extremely time consuming, which what ends up happening is you just don't do it often enough. You don't optimize your bids. And I think that's one of the bigger challenges I see with KDP is a lot of people are complaining about performance and Amazon's not spending their ads. But then when we talk about like what they're doing to mitigate that or change that, well, I set up some campaigns a month ago and nothing's happened. It's like, yeah, of course. Like Amazon's not set it and forget it, more so than any other advertising platform like Facebook or Google. Yeah. Any of these, Amazon is very much hands-on to where what we found is that making small incremental changes frequently far outperforms doing infrequent adjustments. I mean, to where what we recommend is daily adjustments. Very difficult to do as a human, but computers are great at that to just run with it and take the rules and make the changes that you want to happen.
So if I'll give you an example. I've run 100 campaigns, let's say, and maybe 5 of them have done really, really well. One of the things I've done when I was like, okay, I start off with $5 a day, put some stuff in, put in my keywords, play around with what I'm doing, adjust the bids, and then I see how it's operating. I come back and again, it's not always intuitive. Sometimes looking at my sales data and scribe count is more useful than looking at it in that dashboard, or looking at my KDP dashboard. It's like, wait, I'm selling more than they think I'm selling. Because I think even if it's not the direct click, I suspect it's selling because of the ad, because people are seeing it. I don't know. It's my belief anyways, that they underreport a little bit. Is that your...
No, I don't believe Amazon underreports. I think if you get a sale from that ad, they clicked on it, it's happening. I mean, sure, could someone see an ad, later go do a search? I think that can happen, but you don't have data on it. So it's not something I would... It's not something to really even think about, because there's no data to take action on. So whether that happens, fine. I don't think it's happening at a high enough rate to give it honestly any concern, because all we care about at the end of the day is the data that we have and how we can utilize that data. But you've hit on some challenges that we've seen with KDP that really no other sellers have. I mean, the big ones, Kindle Unlimited. You're getting page reads, you're getting estimated royalties, giving away your product for free, and you're making money on the back end from it. That's one of them. But you've also hit on, in a similar vein, is authors have series. Someone buys book 1 from an ad, then they go on and buy book 2, book 3, book 4 organically. But really, that ad contributed to that sale. They wouldn't have bought book 2 through 5 without that initial purchase.
But you don't see that as connected, because there's no way to connect it, right?
Yeah. Overall, it's attribution is overall what the pain point is with KDP. So it's series. It's also when someone finds an author, even if it's not a series, they're standalone titles, they're going to have cross catalog purchases. So they buy one book and then they buy one of another's because they like your writing, hopefully. And then the other portion of that we see, I'm kind of hitting on all the challenges that we've identified and are solving with Merchjar. The other one is, again, tied to Kindle Unlimited, but the page read attribution. Those pages read that show up in your ad console, your Amazon ad dashboard, are only counted when they happen within the first 14 days. And I think every seller that's been doing this knows that most people aren't reading your book within 14 days. Of course, this is going to be like genre dependent and so many different factors. But when someone downloads your book, which we don't have data on, which is unfortunate, to know when a book is downloaded, because that'd be another point of data we could optimize around. We only have clicks and then page reads. But those page reads, someone downloads your book and waits to to read
Yeah.
it, you're only seeing a portion of the page reads. So that you're not,
Right.
even though those additional page reads outside the 14 days are indirectly attributable to the ad, you don't have the data on that. And then the same like
Yeah.
series read through. Someone downloads a book from an ad, reads it, they go on to read more. You still have that series read through
Yeah.
problem with the attribution. So there's a lot of problems that KDP brings that have been interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Took us
Unique.
some time to kind of wrap our heads around it, but I think we've gotten pretty close. Now, there's not going to ever be a perfect solution because we don't have the data on that. I mean, unless Amazon, and this will never happen, gave us an ID for a customer that told us when they bought every single book, even after the attribution window. That'd be the only way to know kind of what the true conversion rates is, how often someone actually buys a book organically after clicking on an ad. We'll just never have that data, but we can get a lot closer than just kind of the current solution, what you're saying with, well, it looks like it's unprofitable, but I think I'm making money on the back end. And you're just kind of hoping that that's happening and you keep feeding Amazon money. And there's correlation to that for sure, because we probably know too, is like if you just turned off your ads as well, those organic sales are going away. They're not going to be at the same level that they are now.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny you talk about the page reads, because I mean, I haven't had books in Kindle Unlimited for like 5 years, and I still occasionally get page read on a book that was in KU 5 years ago. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but it's cute to see. Oh, look, someone's reading it now, like 5 years later. So it's like they put it in the library and forgot about it, and then it's still there, even after it's not even in that program, which is interesting. But
it is interesting.
So I was thinking, so one of the things I've done is with one of my more successful ads, I start off $5 a day, just very, very small, check it out, test it out, tweak. And then I go, oh, $10. And so long as, I put in $5, I make $8. Okay, great. I'm going to change it to $10. Now I'm making $20 or $21. And then I put $25 a day, and then I've gotten it up to $100 a day. But I'm slowly walking my way up and still adjusting, going, so long as if I put in X and I make back X plus Y, granted, it goes on my credit card this month, but I don't get paid for 90 days. So remembering, if you get very careful, people, to spend $10,000 in a month, you're going to have to carry that credit for a while.
Yeah. And I think that scares a lot of people too. I mean, I'll tell someone I spent 30 grand in December. I didn't start that way. I mean, I started in the same fashion where I was spending $5 a day, and then you scale up, you work your way up to it. But cash flow is more challenging for KDP than other sellers as well. As a merchant on demand seller, I get paid for the current month, the following month. I don't have that.
So that's
60, 90 days.
Yeah.
So that's definitely challenges. I hear that a lot from some of the users and other authors I've talked to, where, especially during peak seasonality like Christmas, if that's a big selling season for your titles, it can be, you gotta save up for it almost. Or credit cards help, they certainly do, and the points are nice.
You gotta make sure you have the space to do it, because when you get the money back, you're not going to have it right away. So that's an example, one where it's a lot of work. I've walked it up from $5 to $10 to $25 to $100 or whatever, and then I get busy and I can't go in every day or every 2 days and tweak it. Maybe it's once a week, and sometimes it stays, sometimes it goes down. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I lost money this time. Oh, I made money, and it kind of balances out. But usually what happens is once I've coaxed it to a certain point, I get exhausted and I'm done. I've got other things to do in my life, not focus on this ad all day. So what I'm looking at is, that sounds to me like, oh my God, I could probably, using a similar campaign, leverage MerchJar to do some of those things for me, to save me the time. Can I program it to ramp up in that way if things are going well?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we've taken a different approach than other tools in the market. I mean, as far as I've seen, we're really the only one that's focused on KDP and have implemented KDP specific features to solve some of those challenges. So there's not really other tools that are even focused on that market. But we've taken a different approach from these, to where usually there's two approaches by these automation tools. They're using some black box algorithm or AI as they're calling it, that you have really no idea what it's doing. It's just, taking over my campaigns and I hope it works. The other side is really rigid frameworks where you can create rules. So it'd be, when my ACoS is this, do this thing. And it's just a really fixed structure. we've created a sandbox to where it's you can do really whatever you want as far as searching and filtering your data. Using multiple date ranges is a super powerful tool we've built in, because it's not just about the last 7 days or last 30. It's oftentimes multiple date ranges of your data. So we've built this open sandbox to really create any kind of rules that you want, because there isn't any one right way to run ads. Everybody has different ideas, different metrics that are important to them, different profit goals. So we've given you the tools to really allow you to do whatever you want with it. Now, that said, a lot of people don't want to have to spend tons of time figuring out a brand new tool and exactly what the how to configure this. So we have what we call starter automations, to where out of the box you can enable these, and they're going to work for most people. Maybe tweak like your target goals, just because that can vary pretty wildly to what how profitable do you want them to be. Some people are a lot more aggressive than others, but otherwise, out of the box, just flip the switch on them and turn them on. They're going to handle 90% of the things you probably should be doing anyways.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this sounds intriguing. So as an author who's interested, you said it's a subscription program. Like, obviously, well, merch jar's gotta pay the rent, feed the kids, that kind of stuff. So obviously, it's not a free service. People have to pay for it, so they have to be prepared for that. But how does that work then? Is it a monthly fee? Is it depend on how many books? What's the basis for payment?
So our plans start at $10 a month and on up from there. Our plans at this time are based on the revenue that you make from your ads. So if you're looking in your ad console, that's your sales and your estimated royalty columns. So our goals are very much in alignment with our users. We only make more money when you're making more money.
Okay, really? So it's not like I have to pay $1,000 just to see if it works. If I'm looking at it, it's like $10 a month to use the tools, and then if I become a millionaire, you also make more money. You make more than $10.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah,
okay, I like that model.
I don't know that it's always going to stay like that. We introduced that model before we started focusing on KDP, and I there has been some challenges there with KDP with a lot of the sales happening on the back end where there isn't attribution for that. So that has adjusted. So I can't say that that's always going to be the case, but it is in some fashion will be based on the value you're getting out of the tool, based on the sales and the ad spend that you have. Because we do have costs associated with just processing the huge volume of data. It's a lot more than people realize. With every keyword, there's tons of different data points and having to manipulate all that data. But it's been important for us to be as accessible as possible to as many sellers as possible.
Because when I think about it, it's like $10 a month. That's less than what you pay for Netflix, right? So if this is important to your business, it's important to your leisure time to be able to watch a streaming video. If it's important to your business, one of the things I always have to remind writers of is we are so lucky. No other startup in existence can you start a business with such little, investment of cash. Like you can get going for, maybe a few $100s, a few $1,000s. You don't need to invest $50,000 to start a publishing empire.
Absolutely. And I've always been a huge proponent of outsourcing as much as possible and getting back as much time as possible. So any tools that can save you an hour, a couple hours a month minimum, they're worth investing in. Like, getting your time back is by far the most valuable thing you can do.
So I'm like, why haven't I done this? Because it's only $10 a month, and
most people don't know about us. To be honest, with us being brand new to the author world and KDP, it's really for us is getting our name out there. We've been around for several years now. It's just most people just don't know it's available. And we've supported KDP sellers for some time now, but it's been the last few months that we've really focused on that and pushed new features out to really support them, especially in that Kindle Unlimited. And we haven't even touched on this, but one of the challenges with Kindle Unlimited in particular is that estimated royalties and how that translates to your ACoS. The traditional ACoS that Amazon gives you in the ad console, if you're making significant money from page reads, it's pretty much useless. It's not accounting for the actual money that's coming back into your pocket. which is at the end of the day, all that matters, your ROI, how much you're spending versus the profit you're receiving, which makes ACOS far and away the most important metric in all of Amazon. Even for KDP, it just happens that you still have an ACOS, an advertising cost of sale, an ROI, ROAS, or return on ad spend. You still have that. It just takes a lot more work to arrive at that actual figure, to incorporate your estimated royalties with your sales. Because for those that don't know, your ACOS in Amazon only counts your sales from orders. So if you have page reads and estimated royalties, it just completely ignores that. So you see, and it's why you end up getting advice like ignore your ACOS, only go buy your KDP dashboard for the money that you actually have. And I think that is a big mistake, because that's still important, the return on investment versus what you're spending. But it's just it's a lot of work to arrive at that. So what we've done is combined estimated royalties with sales in what we call blended metrics, to where we combine those. We use your actual profit from sales. So it's all this is about the profit, the money that's actually the dollars going back in your pocket. But we'll take the profit from your sales and add it with your estimated royalties. And we take profit from sales so that they're equalized, because you get 100% of your profits from estimated royalties. You don't get 100% of the sales, because Amazon's got to take their cut. You have a percentage of royalty and fees or whatever else Amazon tax on. And then we combine that into an actual blended profit. And we use that to calculate your true ACOS, your blended ACOS, as we call it, that incorporates both your page reads and estimated royalties plus your order sales into a metric that's going to show you actually what you're spending versus receiving from this ad, at least attributed to it. We have some other features too to help with some of that attribution we talked about that's happening on the back end with series read through and such. But that's a little bit more of a maybe advanced concept, or it gets complicated very quickly. There's different approaches to it, but just being able to see the actual true ACOS figure that you're at a keyword level. So for every single keyword and target, you can see exactly how it's performing. It's a lot easier to make decisions on those instead of having to do all this mental math. And it's like, oh, maybe it's making money. It'll actually show you the true amount it's making versus what it's spending.
And a lot of the automation is understanding what your goals are and what your tolerances are, so you can say, when it reaches this, get rid of this or do that.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. As soon as you have that number, and those blended metrics, blended profit, blended ACOS are built into all of our automation. So you can use those to set up your rules and conditions. So when a keyword is too high of a blended ACOS, you can start dialing down the bid or negate a search term that the blended ACOS is too high for. So there's all these different tools that just make it a lot easier to streamline that decision making based on actual data instead of guessing and hope.
I mean, it always feels like, it's like you're hiring somebody to do the ads for you, because they have the time to go in and look at it and make these decisions, but you've automated all that. So that's why it's not $50 a month, it's $10 a month, because I mean, there is a lot of work, I get it, but you've streamlined it in such a way to make it affordable. I love that. So I'm thinking I'm going to come back to an example. So I've got these ads that sometimes when I run them and I have the time, I can do this and it works, but I can't do it all the time. And when I'm not tweaking them, they stop making money. So then I shut them down because I don't have time to go back. This sounds like, well, for $10 a month, I take that, the last version of that ad and whatever is working, I stick it in, and then I provide these parameters, and then ideally I just go put on a pot of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. And I would consider myself a lazy advertiser, to be honest. The ironic thing is I probably don't spend enough time on my own ads with my focus on Mershar, but I know that it's taking care of it for the most part. And again, it's still a good idea to check every once in a while. Like automation is great, but it can, only do so much. So I still go in and check my ads every couple weeks, week or two. But being able to just go on vacation or focus on other things and know, for the most part, my ads are being taken care of. Nothing's going to get too crazy for me.
The lawn's not going to go dry because no one's watering it, right?
Yes, exactly. Because again, it's not set it and forget it. And Amazon is constantly changing. Even if you don't do anything, there's going to be new competition that enters the market. The bids are going to be different, seasonality, different traffic levels. All of that requires constant attention to dial in your bids. And if you don't, you're just leaving money on the table.
Yeah. So then in my case of a progressive step where I'm like, okay, start with this. And then if once I reach this threshold, then move it to this and move like it has that sort of layers of if then.
Yeah, yeah, you can set your conditions, so you can do it like for campaign budgets if you wish. So really, again, that's that sandbox. You can set it up to really however you want. And again, we've done that because everyone's got different ideas. I set up, I created these. The feature is called recipes, is what we have. So you create a recipe and it's going to do this thing. So we have our starter recipes you can use. That's going to do a lot of those things for you, but you can.
You said there's a starter automations. That's the first.
Exactly. So you can implement those, and it's going to do a lot of those. All the things you really
do you have
should be
spicy
doing.
food? I can handle it. Do you have the big?
We got some spicy recipes. It can get pretty complicated if you wish.
Okay.
So it really depends on how in depth. And we built these tools too. Like some people get a little overwhelmed when they first see it. But we've built it in a way that gives more sophisticated advertisers the tools to do these complicated recipes. But you don't have to. You can keep them pretty simple too. Just pretty easy. Okay, over the last 7 days, if my spend was this, then pause. I mean, you can keep them pretty simple. So it's as complicated as you want to make it.
Do you have, and I should have asked you this in advance, any screenshots or visuals that we can show people what a dashboard would look like? Just because people are like, hey, this is interesting, but then I don't want them to be overwhelmed. So maybe you can give them I think I can allow you the ability to share your screen.
Let me see. Let me move my screens around here.
So let's see if I can.
Yeah, we have a demo account that we can take a peek at.
And I think there should be an ability for me to give you that ability to share screen. Do you see that? Like present?
I don't.
Oh, okay. So as here's the novice going, how do I know in Zoom how to allow you to do this, but how do I was just checking in the settings to see if there's general, if there's a thing where I can say for layouts, guests can stream this to their own destination. No, I don't see a thing that says guests can share their screen.
Well, we offer a free 14-day trial. So anybody that's interested can jump in and check it out for free, no credit card required.
Oh, really? Okay, cool. And then what I might do is I'll try and grab some screenshots, or if I can get some screenshots from you, I can maybe add them in the
definitely. We'll do it in
Facebook
post.
group for superstars so that they can check it out and of course they can reach out and ask questions. Like they go to
merchstar.com. Merchstar.com. There's a chat. We actually have a 28-page playbook for KDP on. It's got tons of different information in there. So for anybody that's learning Amazon ads, what optimizations you should be doing, how all this data works, concepts like sales velocity, all this is in this 28-page PDF that you can get right on our website, merchstar.com. There'll be a little chat that pops up offering the playbook. It's free. Enter your email and I'll send it to you.
Wow. Okay. This is amazing. So I guess just to confirm, this is not for somebody who's never done, it doesn't even know what an Amazon ad is, has never done it. It's not like, hey, for novices who's never done an ad.
I wouldn't recommend
it for people who are at least familiar with the basics of what an Amazon ad is. They don't have to be experts. Right?
No, they don't have to be experts, but it's going to help to know all the different terminology and KPI. What, when we're throwing around all these acronyms that are just rife in the PPC world, it's good to know some of those. And that's a lot of those are actually in the playbook too. We have a glossary at the start.
So like ACOS is what? Yeah.
What's ACOS? What's, ROAS and all these other terms, and knowing what a search term is versus a keyword. So like a lot of these are concepts that are just more honestly fundamental to know. So our tool isn't really designed to take you from absolute zero to other. You'll probably be overwhelmed. I mean, it's Amazon advertising is very, very data heavy. So if most of it's, you're going to be looking at tables and charts, and it's just a lot of data, and it's just by the nature of it. That's how PPC paid advertising, pay-per-click advertising works. It's completely based on the data. I know that scares off a lot of authors. They're not numbers people
Yes.
a lot of times by nature. But it is, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you ask, Amazon ads is really required at this point to compete on Amazon. You're just not going to see the potential sales that you could otherwise. So it's worth investing in. You don't have to be 100% expert on everything or a statistician or anything like that, but you need to know the basics of what metrics are important, what to look for, what optimizations you could be looking for. And that's why we have done a lot of educational things as well. We have a YouTube channel we do a lot of education on. And usually it's one of those things that someone's brand new to Amazon ads where they're just really overwhelmed at first. And that's okay. It's going to be overwhelming, but just stick with it. And honestly, the best thing you can do is just dive right in and start launching ads. You'll learn as you go, and just keep with it.
Wow. And just riffing off of something you said, and let's see if I got the abbreviation proper. Is it fair to say that Amazon is a P2P platform for authors now, pay to play?
Yeah, I think it's been that way for some time. I think KDP's maybe lagged a little bit behind some of the other platforms. It's been that way for years for like Seller Central, for example. Saw that transformation with Merch on Demand as well 3-4 years ago. I think that's kind of hitting KDP as far as people realizing this is necessary. And I mean, I see it as a win. It really ends up being a competitive edge for the people that do figure it out. The guys that figure it out, we have users come in that just started selling on KDP 12, 18 months ago, and they figured out the advertising portion of it. And they scaled very quickly from just starting advertising to spending 30 grand a month in a matter of 12 to 18 months profitably. So those that do figure it out can do very, very well.
Have you figured out any ways? I'll give you an example. I have a book that is published, which is trivia for Die Hard, and the title of the book is the catchphrase that John McClane uses. But I have the little asterisks in the yippee-ki-yay, in that other word that follows yippee-ki-yay. I have a little asterisk in it, right? Like, so it's not spelling out the adult language word there. That we shall not use in this podcast. This is, to keep it family friendly. But I'm sure people know what it is. But that, like, when I tried to run an ad on it, because I'm like, hey, people love this movie. I can target the movie. I can target whatever. They reject it because it's vulgar. Any thoughts on how when something? I mean, it's not vulgar. I mean, it's vulgar. Yes, it is. But it's.
I don't know if there's ways to circumvent that. I mean, Amazon ads has their own policies that's different than just listing a product. So there's certain things that you can't advertise, profanity, drugs, politics. There's some of those things that you're just not going to be able to get around.
Yeah, so that's probably not worthwhile. So what are just as we get just a few more minutes before we wrap up, what's some sort of advice for authors who've never run ads before that you would, and you've already given some great advice, but maybe some mistakes that you want to make sure they don't make, or just advice that they should keep in mind?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, part of it's just getting started, and don't worry about being overwhelmed. Just keep going. Probably one of the biggest mistakes I see new advertisers make is not collecting enough data before making decisions. So again, Amazon ads is just completely data-based. The whole process is about testing something, collecting enough data for it that we can then make a decision and either do more of and then find what's working using that data and do more of it, and then find what's not working and do less of it. At a high level, that's Amazon ads in a nutshell. It's not complicated. That's it. Find what works and do more. Find what doesn't work and prune it, do less of it. But we need to collect that data to be able to make those decisions. The more data that we have, the better decisions that we can make. Now, we're not talking about like hitting statistical significance with a 95% confidence rate, because we would spend tons of money to do that. So it's a balance. But what I end up seeing a lot of times, and tied to this with the data, is collecting data and making those decisions at a granular enough level. And what I mean by that is not at the campaign or account level, but as granular level as possible, which tends to be keyword and target level or search term level. And these are going to be probably some new terms if you're brand new to Amazon ads, but it's important to not look at that high level data and make decisions based on it, because what it can end up happening is you have a campaign, you have multiple keywords in it. That campaign's performing really poorly. I'm going to pause this, where you could have keywords that were performing really well that just were the campaign performance was dragged down by ones that weren't. So I see that a lot where people are making decisions on that campaign level, or they don't collect enough data to where, you know, they get 10 clicks and I didn't get an order for a campaign, so I'm going to pause this. And that's honestly probably the worst mistake you can make, because finding out what doesn't work is just as important as finding out what does work.
Oh, yeah. You got to feed that, right?
You got to feed it. So what ends up happening if you're not collecting the data, you truly set your money on fire because you didn't collect enough data to learn anything. You don't know if that works or not. Those 10 clicks were spread out among 10 different search terms. Each one got a click. That doesn't really tell you anything. If those could be your next best performer, you just would never know. So you're setting your money on fire by not collecting enough data or making decisions on that high level instead of granular level.
I like that. I like that, setting your money on fire, because it's exactly how some of my ads have felt. Like, look, I am really good at setting money on fire.
But at least if you're taking that information and utilizing it, you're not truly setting your money on fire, because you're learning, okay, that doesn't work. You tested this, it doesn't work, because it does cost money to test things. So I would say some other mistakes I do see, particularly in the KDP space, and advice of like creating tons of ads and doing tons of keywords. We'll see someone create 100, 200 different keywords. Every new thing that you create requires testing. So if you have 100 different keywords, that's a lot of clicks you need to get on each keyword before you can really determine if each keyword is working or not. I mean, depending on what those keywords are, but if, like, minimum they're an exact match keyword, I want to have at least 20 clicks on an exact match keyword to know if it's working or not.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, there's some math behind it that you could.
Yeah, and give up on it. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you were to flip a coin and you're trying to get heads, but you get tails one time, I mean, does that mean there's no heads on that coin? You only flipped it once. It's like,
I just saw Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead with Merry and Pippin here in Toronto, Ontario. The two actors from The Lord of the Rings, and if anyone who's seen Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, the thing about flipping the coin is a motif they use throughout where it's always heads. So, what are the chances? Anyways, you steered me into that, into thinking about. Thinking about that wonderful stage play. Great advice, though. I really appreciate that. And honestly, when I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to Cameron, I'm going to learn about MerchJar, I was thinking, like, oh, this is intimidating. It's too scary. I'm not ready for it. And just talking to you and learning about it, I'm thinking, again, it was like kicking myself going, why didn't I spend more time at Superstars this last February or $20 talking to you so I can learn more? Because I'm looking at it going, oh my God, there's so much that MerchJar can help me with. I can take some of these ads I haven't had time to massage. And again, I'm going to have to invest some time and go in and put in my if then, and here's what I want. And then allow that automation to see what it can do for me while I go off to write the next book.
Yeah, exactly. And there is some initial setup depending on how complex you want some of these automations, negating like specific ad groups with certain things and so forth. So there's some initial setup, but it's sort of a one and done thing. Like I set up an automation to just automatically negate search terms, for example, that reach a certain click threshold. And we use for KDP, I would use blended profit. It's not making me much money, but spending a lot, get rid of them. You set that up once, and now that ad group is self-optimizing. Over time, it's just going to prune everything that's not working, and you're left with what hopefully is working at that point.
Oh my God, that is fantastic. Cameron, thank you so much for your patience with me and for explaining all of these things.
Happy to do so. It's been a pleasure.
Oh yeah, this was a lot of fun. So if anyone has any questions, they can go to merchjar.com. They can download the PDF. I mean, just the abbreviations alone for others to understand the business, even if they're not ready to do ads. Thank you for that resource, because it's a free resource you offer. Yeah, that is fantastic. Yeah, and merchjar.com. And I imagine if authors get a chance, I do highly advise, if you're at a conference and you see Cameron or any of the team from Merchjar, go reach out. Good people.
We got a few more conferences on
Yeah.
the stop this year. So yeah, if you're at a conference, definitely let me know. London coming up. I believe I'll be there. Nink and the new Author Nation
Yeah, cool.
is on the schedule for this
Awesome.
year.
And,
So,
and
yeah,
hopefully get to see you again at Superstars in February 2025.
yeah.
Next year Superstar. Awesome.
I
Cool.
don't even want to think about 2025 yet.
Yeah, not
I'm
yet.
gonna focus
Not
on
yet.
24 still, but
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, thank you, Cameron, and thank you, folks who are watching live. For you people in the future who are watching the videos that are still there to watch later on, thanks for watching now. And again, thanks, Cameron, and have a great afternoon.
thanks, you as well.